I feel a little bit emotional because, my friends are making me that way. So, story of the success of national or regional initiatives with World Without Orphans vision, those stories are always the stories of collaboration. And I really think that this statement is not, it's not understatement, it's really just a statement of reality. The collaboration is at the heart of the success of any national or regional initiative. But it's not collaboration as a technical term we are talking here. And that's very important for us to remember. We are talking about collaboration for cause. That's very important to know. And many times when we as leaders are thinking about collaboration, we are thinking about area of practical collaboration. Let's think be done. But I think we need to keep in our minds that spiritual and relational aspect of us coming together is as powerful. And without the spiritual and relational aspect, there will be no meaningful collaboration. I think those are the stories of collaboration from Zambia, from Romania, from Paraguay, from Europe as a continent where country is serving the country. National initiative is just inspiring and taking care and coaching another national initiative in a different country. Those are the stories of collaboration. And I was always fascinated to read the story of the man of God in the Old Testament, the prophet who ran for his life to save his life from the evil queen of Jezebel. He said, I'm going to kill you. So he was running for his life. And you know the story. He came to the point where he met God. And to our surprise, God is so often providing the answers by asking questions and not just providing the answers. So I think that at the heart of our collaboration efforts in many countries, there is bringing people together to ask questions together. So often we as evangelical leaders are coming together to present our own answers to each other, And then you have a room with 20 people and you have 20 answers, but no one is really pointing, what is real question? But we need to come together and really explore what is real question, because then we will leave the room with sense of ownership and responsibility. And so this man of God, when he met the God said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm the only one in this country and they are trying to kill me. I'm the only one who is serving here. And you know the story. God said to him, hey, don't make a mistake. I have 7,000 more in this country. So I was wondering, how is it possible that in a small country like that, like Israel, that man of God was not recognizing the presence of 7,000 more people who really had their heart towards the Almighty God? And my answer is that he was focused so much on his own ministry, on his own segment. He was very passionate about what he was doing, that he was not even paying enough attention, that there are others, that God is using others. And I would like to invite my friend Alan Charter. Alan is international coordinator for Global Children's Forum, and he's part of global WWO community. So Alan, why collaboration? Why at the heart of ministry to orphans and vulnerable children? Why collaboration?
Thank you, Lubo. Well, for me, part of it is you get the fun of working together. And when you get to work with people like Lubo, you never quite know what's going to happen next. Well, somebody said to me once, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So Lubo helps me to do that. But we've been collaborating for the last 3 years, especially since we were here together in Chiang Mai at the first forum. And for me, it gives a glimpse beyond the things that we see. It gives a glimpse for us to grasp hold of the reality that there is one body, that we serve together as part of God's global family. And, well, the reality is we can't do it alone. We only have to look in our cities, in our countries, let alone across the world, for us to realize that if we're going to see a world without orphans, there's no way that I can do that, and there's no way that you can do that. and we can't do it alone. So collaboration is the gateway for us to begin to see the strength and the enormity of what God can do. So for me, it's given ways to look beyond the things that we see and the opportunity to imagine working together as one body.
We are here at a big event, and maybe 3 days from now, we will be back home. And we are talking a lot about the event and process dynamic. And you notice probably all of you on some of the posters, the words "on the journey together." One of my close friends, he always, when he sent the email, at the bottom of the email, there are words "on the journey together." And every email is like inspiration when I got email from him. So how we can handle this dynamic that we are so glad to be here, to be inspired, but also we are on the journey, and the journey will continue when we will come back home.
One of the things that I can remember talking about with you, Lubo, before this event was that if this forum is our goal, then we've already failed. This forum provides a means for us to gather around these tables, to have conversations, to be intentional together about listening for God's voice. And I encourage you to use this time to let God speak to you through the things you hear, but I think especially in the conversations around the table and over the meal times and as we walk together. Because actually, this is only the start. This is only one step along the way. And I'm so grateful, Lubo, to you and the team for producing this roadmap, because in a way, this gives us a conversation that carries forward from here. It allows us to continue what we sense that God is saying to us here while we're together and carry that forward. Because I can guarantee you, because I've experienced this myself and I know it from the stories of many others, that we can say yes and amen when we're in a room together. But walking that forward day in, day out takes ongoing commitment and ongoing intentional investment of our priorities and our time and our resources. But do you know, the need is so great, it really is worth it. And together we can see that, and we can continue to have a little bit of fun along the way.
That's right. And there is few more friends we would like to invite and ask the question to answer for all of us. Again, it's stretching for me because every person, when I say the name, there is a story, there is a time together, there are challenges, and there is a gift and blessing I experienced when I met that person. But you need to find the time and to meet them in person later on. But now you will hear from them just a short version of their answer of Alan's question. So let me invite here my friend Phil Green from UK. Welcome, Phil. And Anton Putilin from Central Asia, from Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. Are there some people from Central Asia here in the room? Is there anyone from the... Yes, there was one at the back. There is a group. And Simon Kanyembo from Zambia. Simon? There is a Zambian group here, I know. Richard Proctor from UK, but actually I should say from Europe, because Richard is facilitating Europe without Orphans team. And also the Adriana Vervara from Paraguay. So can we welcome them here, please?
So this is some of the fun that we get to have together, to hear stories. And actually we wanted to model collaboration. So I'm delighted that we have an opportunity to hear from you all. We're going to hand over to them. So very simply, we'll hear from each of you in turn, just some examples of what collaboration has looked like in your context. Phil, over to you first.
So Home for Good is the national movement in the UK, and it was very much born out of collaboration. A few years ago, 3 Christian organisations came together and recognised there was a shortage of 9,000 foster carers in the UK and 6,000 children waiting to be adopted. And these 3 Christian organisations said to each other, well, we're in contact with at least 15,000 churches. So you do the maths. If one individual, couple or family in each of those churches chose to foster and adopt, there wouldn't be any children in the UK waiting for a home. And wouldn't that be great news? So the collaboration in the UK enabled us to have reach into enough churches. But also, I don't know if you've discovered this yourselves, but it can be quite hard for a fostering and adoption organisation to get access to a church. Church leaders often kind of glaze over when you start talking about fostering and adoption. But these three organisations were already respected by the churches. One of these organisations was passionate about the church being good news in society. Another was passionate about family support. Another was really well respected in child protection. So when these three organisations went to churches and said, you should put fostering and adoption on your agenda, the churches listened. And Home for Good kind of continues to do that today. We work with organisations that are dealing with issues that the church is really passionate about, like homelessness or prison work or gangs. And we make the link to say, actually, if we were fostering and adopting more children earlier on, there'd be less homelessness, less children in gangs, less people entering the prison population. So collaboration is really, really important. And the second thing we've found about collaboration is collaboration means that we don't have to do everything. We can just focus on a few things that we're well placed to do. So when we realised there was 6,000 children waiting to be adopted and 9,000 foster carers urgently needed, we recognised fairly early on that the solution wasn't to set up a fostering agency or an adoption agency. There's already hundreds of agencies in the UK. Another one wouldn't solve the problem. We recognised that church mobilisation was something that was missing and it was something that we could do. So that's what we did. I'm a little bit nervous to say what I'm about to say on this stage, but Home for Good doesn't do anything when it comes to prevention. And the reason we don't is because at the same time Home for Good launched in the UK, another amazing Christian organisation launched in the UK called Safe Families for Children. And all they do is prevention. They're trying to stop children entering the care system. So we don't need to do that. But together we can collaborate to make sure that churches are looking at the whole river we were thinking about last night. For many years, Home for Good had the idea that we should run summer camps for foster kids because we thought that would be a really, really great idea. But we also knew that would be a really challenging idea for us as an organisation to do because it required specialist skills. So we were delighted when a couple of years ago, an organisation launched in the UK just to do that, to run summer camps for kids. Now, we could have been frustrated that another organisation was kind of stepping on our territory, but we weren't. It's a huge blessing for us, so we can now collaborate with an organisation who provides specialism in that area. So if you want to know more about Home for Good, come to our showcase after the break.
Yes. A little advertisement. When Lubomir invited me to the session, he said, "Can you say, what did you learn about collaboration?" And I started thinking. And actually the first thing I learned was actually from Lubomir. He came once to our country and we were talking in a bus about a vision. We talk a lot about visions in our organizations, in our movements, and we try to organize everyone under one big vision. World without orphans, Kyrgyzstan without orphans, so on. And I realized that we should also recognize all the visions within our group. If we're working with a whole group of organizations, we should be very careful in recognizing an individual vision of each organization. So when we collaborate, we will be not only reaching the common goal, but also recognizing and helping each organization, church, and other partners to reach their goals. And what I learned from Lubomir, is that not all of our vision works the same way. Not every organization is reaching the vision the same way. So some organizations' visions are more linear. Like us, we want to see the world without orphans. So we know where we are, we know where we want to go, and it's like a sprint, you know, like we run and run and run, well, rather a marathon, but like one direction. And for other organizations, especially for churches, it might be not as a direct line, but more like a circle, you know. They have to care for orphans, they have to care for homeless, they have to care for widows, they have to care for alcohol addicts, for example. And so for them, they cannot just run the same direction with all of their energy. They have to grow slower, but many different directions. And so if we realize that, it will be easier for us to communicate with each other. And not only understanding the vision of each organization, but actually trying to understand the vision of each individual who is working with us. Because all of us have our own goals as well. So it's making it even more complicated in a way. But at the same time, when you recognize and realize the values of each member in your team, you will be more productive. And I still have to work a lot on that. And also, I wanted to share a bit about our understanding. When we collaborate, we have to be vulnerable. And sometimes we will get hurt. As a friend of mine said, the difference between the business world and the Christian ministry is that in the business world, you're actually expecting to be backstabbed. And sometimes we are being hurt by the very people who are collaborating with us, whom we deem as partners. But we should always remember that Jesus said, we are a collection of people who are in need of a doctor. We are broken, we make mistakes, and our main goal should be to help our fellow brothers when they stumble, help them up. Because tomorrow it might be us, not them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, beautiful people. Lubo shared something. Actually, it's good that I heard it today again about Isaiah running away from that lady. Yeah? I think I'm one of those people that almost ran away from this movement, of helping the traumatized children who are suffering in these facilities or child care facilities in my country. And maybe it's because I also got traumatized by trying to help the traumatized children. It becomes so frustrated sometimes when you can't really, see or achieve what you want to achieve in a shortest period of time. So for me, I'll just talk about three things that God really taught us in this ministry. And of course, like Maria put it earlier, there's power in collaboration. There is power in collaboration. And this is what God has taught us over the years. And what we started doing was to engage with three, I would call them powerful entities, and this is the government. Because in my country, the past few years, you never talk about foster care or adoption. That was foreign, totally foreign. I think I have a number of leaders who've come with us from Zambia that were attest to us. So you're talking about foster care and adoption being foreign, yet you have so many children who are languishing in these child care facilities. Every day there's a new child care facility being opened. Every day there are all these children leaving their homes, being separated, ending up on the street, and they have nowhere to run to. They have no families to go to. And we thought of the government, and when I'm talking about the government, I'm talking about all line ministries. We're talking about the judiciary, we're talking about Ministry of Community Development, we're talking about religious and guidance, we're talking about all these very important ministries. And we thought of coming up with a partnership, which we are now calling Children in Families Initiative. These are all child care focused facilities that we came up with, and we shared the vision and we shared the reasons why we should go that direction of having these children, removed from these child care facilities into families. We talked about the effects, the negative effects on their cognitive development and just physical development. We also thought of the church, because many years, I think, we didn't really engage with the church, and the Bible is telling us, my children, you can't do it without me. You can't do it without the church. So we brought in the church, and oh my God, a lot of good things are happening, and everyone is on board. It's being talked about almost in every church today in Zambia. And one good thing is 82% are Christians in my country of 17 million people. So it's happening, and the movement is really fast. I just love what is going on, and God is really amazing. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My story today is really about collaboration across the whole continent of Europe. Since the Global Forum last time here, we have a team of 7 individuals from 6 different countries across Europe. And what we are doing is meeting together with one simple strategy, which is to see what our Father God is doing and to join in with that. So we meet, we pray together, we share with each other stories as to what we see God doing in different countries around Europe. And then we seek to engage with leaders who God is already raising up in each country to encourage them, to share stories about what God is doing elsewhere, to bring training, to help resource them, to help coach them in leading their movements in their countries. So what do we see God doing in Europe? Well, in Southeast Europe, in what is often known as the Balkan countries, we see leaders in Croatia and Serbia and other neighboring countries coming together to encourage each other and to share together how they can develop a movement across the whole of Southeast Europe so that there will be an orphan-free zone in that part of Europe. And we have 5 people from Croatia and 2 from Serbia here on this conference. Do get to meet and talk to them. In Spain, we see the Evangelical Alliance pursuing a strategy to change the way in which children are discipled, from being about church programs and Sunday school classes to where children are discipled in families, and families are strengthened and discipled by churches to do that. So they ask the question, what about the children who don't have a family where they can be discipled? So they're partnering with us in World Without Orphans in order to wrap into the story of discipling children in families, children who need to find a family where they can be nurtured and cared for and discipled. And that'll be launched next weekend. I will be there with them in Madrid next weekend, connecting people together across Spain to share that vision. We see in Latvia, Christians where there's already a pattern of family-based care, but where there are older, teenaged young people who are still in orphanages who can't find a family. So Latvia Without Orphans people are engaging with them to mentor the young people, to bring them into Christian homes, to help them transition so that by the time they're 25, they can live an independent, successful life. I have to have a list, there are so many countries. You can see the leaders from Romania Without Orphans partnering with a new movement in Moldova, the neighboring country, to help them develop their movement and gain from the experience already gained in Romania, but also in Ukraine. That's on top of the already mature movements that we see in Ukraine that we heard of last night, Romania, in the UK that we've just heard of. Our prayer is that every country in Europe will be a country without orphans, and we're just seeking to encourage that. Thank you for that. Yes, that's brilliant. So on Sunday at the regional gatherings, well, there are over 70 people from Europe here. So if you're from Europe, come and join us as we explore how we can see what the roadmap that World Without Orphans has come together with means for us in Europe. Thank you.
Do we have a video now? Hello, good morning. I cheated. I brought a video. So maybe if we have the video to put on.
Yo por mucho tiempo quizás solo sabía mi nombre. A los 5 años fui separado de mi familia y estuve ahí como un pelota, rebotando de un lado a otro.
Aquí estamos operadores del sistema de justicia que con conocimiento y compromiso hemos jurado que teníamos la capacidad de poder hacer frente a este problema.
Hemos identificado los problemas reales y entonces podemos imaginar las soluciones reales.
Estamos para trabajar juntos y tener como único centro de acción a los niños, niñas y adolescentes que están en esta situación.
Esta investigación será un esfuerzo conjunto.
Y seguiremos empeñados en este objetivo. Esos niños son los que nos van a decir el día de mañana si hemos cumplido o no nuestro trabajo.
imposible no.
Thank you. I come from Paraguay. This video that you just saw happened last month. It's a collaboration between all government bodies that deal with children. We have members of the Supreme Court, of the Public Defenders, of the Prosecutor's Office, of the Ministry of Children. One of them is there. And it's amazing how God has brought us together to do that. 3 years ago, 2 people from Paraguay participated in the World Without Orphans forums, and they went back with this heat and this strength and this clear vision from God that children belong in families. And one of them was a lawyer, Anya Gertzen, which I know many of you know. The other one is a pastor, Marcos Vergara. And they say, where do we start? Anya is a lawyer, the pastor, my pastor, and they say, where do we start? And say, let's bring together all the people that we know that are taking care of children, maybe people from children's homes, maybe teachers, maybe families that have adopted. Do we know anyone? And that's when they say, oh yeah, I know one. And so they call me to participate in that meeting. And I said, why am I going to that meeting? I don't know anything about children. All I know is how much the judicial system had made us suffer through all the process of adoption. And they say, exactly, that's why you should go. Okay, I'll go to see what they're talking about. Just make sure nobody is making things worse, okay? And in that meeting, there was just so many people in saying, oh, it is very difficult to get things done correctly here because nobody understands. There is so much lack of awareness. And other people say, oh, yes, and you should see how lack of training there is. Nobody understands anything what they're supposed to be doing. And some other person, not me, said, and the laws are terrible. The laws are terrible. And it was just kind of hopeless to see, oh, we don't know what to do. We don't know where to start. And that is exactly what happened. God says, exactly. You now know your problem. You know where to start. So you started with awareness, you started with training, and you start with your advocacy for changing the law. And that process started 3 years ago. We received a lot of collaboration from different people, from different institutions, unexpected collaborations. McPeace is around there that has visited our country, has sent people over to do training, to talk to the people. And in the last few years, when I say we, I said God through us, managed to have together all government bodies to initiate a process to change the law, to change policy, so children can be home sooner and in better conditions because the process is getting faster. So I just can see that God can use even a lawyer to do his work. So never undermine that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Well, thank you, everybody. And they have much more to share with you, and you need to find the opportunity to sit with them, to invite them for a coffee and ask your own questions. There was one more friend, Alex Iliev from Romania, supposed to be with us, but unfortunately he's not able. But we have a video from Romania, and you will see it now.
I'm Alex Iliev, and I'm Executive Director for Romania Without Orphans. 10 years ago, we found out that we might not have biological children, so when we met twins that have been told that they have 0 chances to be adopted, we knew that they are for us. It was amazing, both challenging and awesome, and that was the way we enter into this world, and we discovered so much. We found about 2 other kids that needed a family, so we started to pray that God will provide a family for them. And God provided a family for them, but not in a way we thought. He changed our hearts and showed us that actually there is more room in our home and house for 2 more kids. So we adopted them too. 5 years ago, we welcomed in our family for Christmas 3 siblings. 3 months ago, one of them remained with us for good, so Denisa is now part of our family. So this is our family now, 5 kids, Nati, myself, and a dog. We discovered that they have many trauma, and what was kind of sad for us is that we felt that we don't know how to help them. We were crying for help because around us we didn't know anyone who adopted. Well, in this process we met Arfo. I've been invited to speak at the first summit, and it was so amazing. I remember for the first time seeing hundreds of people with the same dream, the same passion, same challenges, and it was so inspiring. There I saw like 7 big NGOs coming together and building together something that none of them can control, but something that will become a movement, a national movement. There were quite a number of things that attracted me to Arfo, to Romania Without Orphans, but one of them was collaboration. Together, we came up with a lot better solutions. And then there is this wonderful family that moved to our community, Ionel and Anka. They didn't even have a house at that time, but they moved to Pitești in a very old house, 36 square meters. They have 1 biological son, and they thought, how can we live Christianity that our son will see it, not hear it? So they adopted a girl who was, I think, 6 years old, and then they went further. They adopted Florinel, young boy who was 5 at that age. What's amazing how that gesture spoke to the people around us. We see a movement starting in our city. Little by little, they start to discover this part, because we didn't know about how much the adoption is part of the gospel. But when they moved to our community, we thought, oh, this is not only a ministry for them, it is for all of us. We thought about cleaning the place and renovating the house. Both of the churches start to raise money, and we raised enough money to renovate the house. And for a whole weekend, 50 people came there and worked together. It was awesome to see people from IT, people from different jobs, working there and blessing this family. And for me, this is Arfo. It means bringing people together, because 1 or 2 children to have a family. Investing in this field needs a lot of work, needs a lot of expertise. Because it's such a complicated journey, I don't think it's a journey for one person. I think it's a journey that we should do it together, surrounded by the church, surrounded by people, and I really believe that journeying together is the solution for this.